Okay. Awesome. If you could introduce yourself, Scout, and yeah, just give us a quick overview of who you are.
Sure. My name is Scout, and I am the founder of Transguy Supply, based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we've been in business for 4 years now. Um, I personally transitioned in 2003. It was a very, very different climate, and part of the impetus of wanting to launch Transguy Supply was because um, at the time there were almost no resources available for people who wanted to transition. I mean, this predated even Facebook, YouTube. It was very difficult to find information, let alone products that you might want to feel more comfortable in your bodies. There were very, very few things available. And so, and several years later, just realizing that while things had certainly improved, it still felt like there was just a huge lack, that there were very few spaces where people could go to find the information that they need and to find products that they need. It felt like um, a lot of trans people, I mean, it's already a vulnerable population, and a lot of trans people were buying things off message boards or from sketchy companies. It was really common to hear about people paying for things that never arrived. And so, yeah, that was the impetus. And I think, I had worked in community in various ways off and on for many, many years prior. I was one of the, I'm not sure if folks are familiar with the original plumbing magazine, but it was a magazine that was founded by two trans guys who were living in California at the time. And it was basically a quarterly zine about transmasculine culture. And I found out that this was happening. I was managing a bar at the time, and I reached out and asked them if I could throw a release party for them. And I did, and it was a wild success. There were, I think, almost 700 people who showed up. I mean, way beyond capacity of the actual venue. There were like huge crowds of people outside. I think it just at that point, it sort of clicked for me that the population was actually much bigger than we think it is. And that my hunch was that this could be a viable business for me, that I could create something that would be able to sustain itself. I mean, I think that we've seen a lot of resources for trans people pop up and sort of flare and sort of die out really quickly. And I think there was always that worry that that would be the case as well. But I think I had a hunch that this community was large enough to be able to support a business that catered to the community. And yeah, so it's been 4+ years now. I think it was launched in, oh gosh, I think next month is 5 years. I think next month is five
Oh,
years.
we should
Yeah.
have done that. We should have done this interview next month with a cake.
We should have.
Dang. Okay. Well, I'll remember to congratulate you next week, next month.
Thank you.
Um,
Um, and it's
but I
been a
think
wild ride. It's been amazing. It's been incredibly rewarding work, and the business has just continued to grow as the community grows, as awareness grows, and it's been a phenomenal experience.
I think that's such an interesting kind of like conversation about you didn't know how big the trans community really was, and I feel like people always make that assumption of like, oh, there's only like five of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it kind of it's funnier in Wyoming because people already make fun of us for being the least populous state in the United States. So it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so you have one trans person. Yes, and it's me. I'm the only trans person in Wyoming. But no, there's trans kids, there's trans adults across the state. No matter how small the town I go in, there's still that queer space. And of course, there's like a lacking of it because of our kind of landscape. But just like this idea of fine like having a resource hub, I think is such a like important thing, because even now, like I think we were talking about it, which is there's so much information out there, there's so much information everywhere, and just having kind of like more concise like you go to this site and
Mhm.
there's information about this and
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that, to your point that we actually still have no idea how large the population is. And also, who are we counting as trans, right? There are so many people within like trans or like a wider sort of like
Oh yeah.
gender umbrella, right? Who could use access to these resources as well, and some of these products. And so, and the like ways of collecting statistics on the size of the population have been uh inadequate essentially. And so I think we're still learning how big of a community we are. And also I think as people have access to more informational resources and are able to um, explore and think about and discover their own identities, that more and more people will actually come out as trans or non-binary, because for because you often need to see representations of yourself in order to understand what the possibilities are for you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with companies like you, Scout, coming in and offering kind of that platform of like exploration and looking at that, like how do you want to identify and can how can pieces of clothing, pieces of like items help you accentuate that? And talking about like how long you guys been in the business, I bet it's been an evolution of like of like what you guys do as products, what y'all do as products, but also like the changing of the binder binder structure and packing structure. Like I just recently, like I think it's been since 2017 when I got my first binder, and I now it's a completely different game. Like they've kind of evolved, they've kind of grown into different things. But yeah, what's been your kind of experience with that development?
Yeah, I think that um, there have been, there definitely been significant developments in terms of the quality of the products and the variety of products that are offered to folks, and not just binders, but packers, prosthetics. I mean, Transguy Supply is one of a handful of companies that is really heavily invested in product creation. And so, and then there are so many things that we know, the problems that we know that folks in the community have, where that could be solved by a product creation, and the product just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like for example, we are very close to launching packing underwear for people who menstruate, which prior, as far as I know, does not exist. It might. Some folks might be making it DIY, or maybe a smaller company that I haven't heard about, but there are a handful of products that we've created that, as far as I know, a packing swimwear, for example, did not exist specifically for trans bodies. I know that there was underwear made for cis men who wanted to enhance the size of their bulge. And so they came with some sort of padding inside, but specifically for trans masculine bodies, nothing existed. So, there's the advancements in technology, and then also improvements, like iterations on products that have existed for a long time. I mean, if you look at the majority of the products out there in the beginning were items that were made for cis men to solve a problem that a cis man was having. And then they were co-opted by folks in the community who saw an opportunity to use that for their own needs. And then since then, there's been people who have then made improvements upon those products so that they actually are specifically for not for people who are not cis men,
Yeah.
because our bodies and our needs are different. There's definitely some overlap, but even, I was having this conversation with a friend recently about the Mr. Limpy, which, as far as I know, was the first packer ever made, but it was a gag gift. Like, it was intended, to sell someone as like, oh look, this floppy thing here for a party, and some trans folks were like, oh, I can use that for my own purposes, and
Yeah.
now
I
you
kind
have
of love that. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
yeah, but I'm sure you know that when I came out, Underworks existed, and they were primarily making compression vests for men who had gynecomastia, and now there are a number of binder companies who are making binders for all sorts of folks, right? People who have broader shoulders, and so there's like a racerback binder for people who don't want stomach compression, or I mean, also taping is
it's
also
new.
relatively new.
Yeah,
And
it is pretty new, right?
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know exactly how long trans tape has been in business. I mean, the idea of using KT tape for like shaping your body is something that cis women have been doing for a very long time, right? Like if you don't want to wear an undergarment because it won't look good in your dress, etc. And it's essentially the same product. It's just it's that product with instruction for trans people on how to use it safely to create a flatter or more masculine appearing chest.
And just to explain to people who are watching this, like there's a trans tape, and that you kind of just explaining further, where you can kind of like create that straight, that flatter chest.
Yeah.
So it's out there. It's kind of, you guys
Yeah,
have some of it.
we do. Yeah, we sell chest tape on our website. Yeah, I mean, and they're for someone, for example, who has asthma and can't bind, chest tape could be a possible option for them. I think, yeah, it really has. I mean, even from the 4 years that we've been in business, I think we have been doing some of it, but we're not the only company who is in the business of product creation. And it's been really fun and exciting to see people in the community working together to solve our own problems for our community. Yeah, it's been really beautiful.
Super empowering. And especially like this, I just, these things are so needed, and these, like, talking about the development and using development of products and everything, like, people in history, you saw people like rapping, right? And because they had
I
the
did.
resources,
I have duct tape. I have pictures of duct tape and ace bandages.
Yeah. And unfortunately that's still happening, because like I've told this story a couple of times, content warning, kind of pain, an injury, but a student left ace tape on for too long and broke a rib. And so that was kind of my first introduction to, okay, we really do need to kind of talk about safe binding and how we can like safely get that gender euphoric like moments in time. And it's kind of that situation of like, what makes a binder, do you know? Like, it's that compression element, but can you kind of explain it a little bit more?
Sure. So a binder is generally a garment. It's often shaped either in like an A shirt or undershirt sort of style, or it's an undershirt that's sort of cropped, so it stops right below like where your ribs are. And the idea is that some part of the fabric has very little give, and so it tightens this area and will help flatten your chest to create the appearance of a flatter or more masculine chest. But people also, so tape is another binding alternative. Historically, people did use other types of tape on their bodies. It was absolutely unsafe. But with this specific type of chest tape, it doesn't wrap all the way around your body. It just sort of pulls your chest tissue and to create the appearance of a masculine chest. There are, of course, risks with binding in either of these methods, right? That both of them have the possibility to create really serious damage if you've not done correctly. So, I mean, of course, an ace bandage is the worst possible idea because it's meant to restrict movement. It doesn't move with your body. So keeping your body in that sort of restricted state for an extended, I mean, honestly, for almost any amount of time can damage you, but absolutely for several hours, and you can cause very real permanent damage to your body. KT tape, because it's originally designed for sports injuries, that it's designed for movement. So with chest tape, you actually have full range of motion. There's no compression on your lungs like with a traditional fabric garment binder. And But however, it has its own risks. If it's not removed properly, I have seen really heinous pictures of folks who have torn skin. Also, people who have medical adhesive allergies, which is a surprisingly large number of folks, could potentially have rashes and boils, blisters. There is no such thing as safe binding, but there's safer binding. And with either method, you absolutely want to make sure that you are following the protocol that are laid out from the manufacturer. So with traditional fabric garment binders, you absolutely want to follow the size guides to a T. You want to measure your actual chest. You do not want to estimate. And then when you try a binder on for the first time, if you feel severe discomfort, I mean, you will feel compression, but if you feel severe discomfort, you absolutely need to take that binder off. It's not the right size for you. That I've been reading recently about folks who say that this binder company is safer than this binder company. And the truth of the matter is it's a fit issue, that this one company's, the quality of the compression can range from company to company, but a tight garment one garment isn't going to be safer than one another if the issue is that it's not sized properly, or that it's just not right for your specific body, right? That if you have, let's say like you have your rib measurement is very small and the fullest part of your chest is larger, then there are going to be some binders that are not great for you, basically because of the difference in size there. Or people who have like a broader shoulders, for example, or thicker arms may have binders that like cut into your sides here in a really thick and uncomfortable, like a really uncomfortable way. And it's not that binder is less safe, it's that binder doesn't fit you and it's not proper for your body. But either way, there are tons of guidelines for proper, safer binding, and you always want to follow them anytime you are attempting to bind. Such as you want to give your body a breather with garment binders. You don't want to exercise in garment binders because they are meant to compress your lungs. And when you are exercising, you are trying to get more air into your lungs. It can be very dangerous. And also, you don't want to wear your binder for several hours. You want to take it off if you are feeling any discomfort.
I just want to state for the record that the reason I think I don't know if you saw that I laughed a little bit when you were talking about tape and like if you don't do it right, you like get a wound. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that in my life. I.e. every time because I'm an impatient person. But going on that fact of like, it's saying binding, what you said, like binding isn't necessarily like, it can be a little, would you say dangerous? Not dangerous. Dangerous is a,
I think we can say binding can be dangerous if it's not done properly, and that it's kind of like driving. Driving, it can also be incredibly dangerous if you aren't following the rules and regulations that come with operating a moving vehicle. It's
that's what I was gonna. That's where I was going, because I'm just like, I feel like people could hear that and be like,
of course,
I'm so scared for my child. I don't want them to be in harm. But also there's like, there's so much other things that you just have to learn that balance, right? Like that's about like, no matter how old you are, it is learning about that balance and what's comfortable for your body. And I think kind of talking through like the different ways that the fits and are affected by like body types is so true. Like you can't just go, it's not one size fits all, unfortunately. Because even, let's be honest, one size fits all doesn't fit all. Like
no, it never has.
It doesn't. We need to stop with that marketing. And then I was going to ask questions with packing, which unfortunately I'm a little kind of like, I have limited knowledge on it.
Sure.
Is there still the same, like, is there any concerns with packing at all, or is there like less?
In terms of your safety and health?
Yeah.
but I mean, it depends. I think that, so if you have silicone allergies, for example,
Yes.
that is, you may potentially have a rash or discomfort if you are trying to pack with a silicone packer. There are also folks who, so their packers are generally made from either some sort of like thermo, like a TPE or TPR, which is it's an elastomer.
Mhm.
It's like a rubber product, and they're
Okay.
generally made with a little bit of mineral oil, and some people are allergic to that and can also have breakouts, etc., breakouts or rashes. So, but I mean, no one is, as far as I know, we have sold thousands and thousands of packers. We've never heard of someone injuring themselves severely, other than just they had a reaction to the specific chemical, and that can be mitigated or controlled by putting a cloth barrier between yourself and the packer. So a lot of packing underwear comes with a specific pouch, and the pouch is enclosed, and so the packer is never actually touching your body. And if you have potential allergies, there are cloth packers, there are foam packers, there's all sorts of options for folks who potentially have sensitive skin or allergies.
That's amazing. Like, I honestly need to like, uh, it's kind of a still, I think it's interesting as working in, I literally do queer advocacy, and it's still, I had such a hard time speaking about a packer to a student yesterday, because I was just, they're like, what's a packer? And I'm like, and then part
Well,
of my brain is like, am I allowed to say like a fake penis, or am I like, what's the terminology? And then another one was like, oh, my brother uses it, it's this, and I'm just like, okay, thank God somebody else explained it to me.
yeah, I
But
think, so I would say it's Packers anything that creates the appearance of a bulge. And so it
yeah,
doesn't actually have to look like someone's anatomy. It can be a sock.
yeah,
You can pack with, there are foam packers that kind of create sort of like a Ken doll bulge for you. If you're non-binary and having something that looks like a male's anatomy, like it makes you feel uncomfortable, but you still want to have the bulge because that makes you feel euphoric, then there are options for you as well. So package just anything that creates a bulge. Some of them are very realistic looking. For some people, that piece is really important for it to be realistic looking.
mhm,
And then others are non-anatomical.
yeah. I think that's so. I'm gonna be so much better next time a kid asks me.
It just takes practice.
Yeah, and and I think it's a good way. It's good. It shows that also I'm learning as a like, no matter, even if you're in the queer community, like, you're learning, and people are, and that comes to packers, that comes to binders, that comes to everything, and about kind of, once again, finding that balance of like, am I ready for this? Am I not ready for this? And such and such. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that these exist and everything. Um, let's see. I think I have one last question and we can talk more,
Sure.
but what would be your advice for somebody exploring this kind of gender, uh clothing items and such?
Um, that's a
Sorry,
good
putting
question.
you on a spot.
No, I think it's important that young people are allowed the opportunity to explore. I think that sometimes people can get really focused on reaching an end result, right? As though that if you are real truly this, then you must feel this way. And I think it's important to know that one there's every single person's experience of themselves is going to be different, and that includes their experience of their own gender. And there are things that have worked for me that don't work for other people who look very similar to me. People who, I mean, I think it's important to give yourself the space to explore, and for adults to allow young people to explore. I mean, that's the point of like this time in your lives, right? Is self-discovery, and also that even older folks who have spent a lot of time thinking about their gender and exploring, I mean, I just will speak personally that um, my identity has my feeling about my own gender has shifted radically in the last 20 years. From the beginning of my transition to how I identify now is very different. And I think That's in part because I'm in an engaged conversation with myself, but that also includes my surroundings and my community and the feedback that I receive from people that, yeah, that like there is no destination. Enjoy the exploration. If something feels good, listen to your body. And then also know that like something that feels good now may not feel good in the same way 5 years from now. So if you want to try nail polish or try, I don't know, just exploring, if you want to try exploring new pronouns or this specific name, that you don't have to land there. And yeah, I would say just enjoy the exploration and be open to listening to yourself and to what feels good for you.
I love that because I just feel like there's a lot of rhetoric and conversation about like, oh, you got to find who you are as a person. And it's just like, there is no one who you are. It's a whole process.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have a lot of kids who are very like think very statically. They're like, oh, like I say I'm asexual, but some days I don't feel asexual. Am I still asexual? And I'm just like, yeah, like I whatever, like it doesn't matter. If you aren't feeling it, you aren't feeling it. Like everything like that. Or pronouns and everything. I keep on going to this one school and this one person keeps on changing their name. Last time I went, it was Diablo, and we love that for them. But thank you so much, Scout. That's such a great parting words because we have a lot of like in this weird climate and landscape in Wyoming. I think it really brings kind of hope that there is this kind of evolution that happened not only in your business, but in the queer community, and also what that's continuing to happen within in transness, gender non-conforming world. So thank you so much. And then
thanks so much for having me.
Of course. All right, I'm gonna end the recording. Maybe. Stop recording.